don't judge a book by its cover. No, it's going to be more fun than this visual suggests, I would hope. And we're going to do something that I used to do every couple years or so, where I would keep up with the film career of action star, quotation marks, Steven Seagal, and see if the movies he'd release, because he used to release like 5 movies a year, see if all those movies corresponded to the naming convention Steven Seagal is. Right? Because when Steven Seagal started out, there were all these commercials where it's like Steven Seagal is above the law, Steven Seagal is out for a kill, you know. So, and this was what I grew up on. This was my expectation of Steven Seagal. That every single Steven Seagal would be Steven Seagal is, and then the thing that he is. But that didn't always turn out to be the case. So I'd like to go through, see which correspond to the naming convention, which don't, what the ratio is, and basically, I think that's a pretty good barometer, or I used to think it was a pretty good barometer of where his career was at any given time. Now, he doesn't really have a career, thankfully, because he was accused of just awful things. So that seems to have put his career at a standstill. That, and maybe also him moving to Russia and hanging out with Vladimir Putin. And, I don't mean that like, that sounds like a thing an asshole would say where, like your friend is like, hey, I've decided I'm going to Moscow. And you're like, yeah, go fucking hang out with Vladimir Putin, asshole. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, Seagal legit, like, loves Vladimir Putin. He thinks that guy's awesome. But yeah, anyway, I got fascinated with Seagal through this book, Seagology, written by Verne, which goes through each and every Seagal film up to the time of publication and just analyzes them in a very um, academic kind of way, which I really appreciated. And then there was, this got me really interested in the oeuvre of Steven Seagal, but I wasn't about to watch all the movies. I tried to watch a couple of them, and the recent Seagal movies, like, they get funding because he's in the movies. Like, not a lot of funding, but enough. But then, he's gotten older, he's gotten a little heavier, and moving is a little bit more of a struggle these days. So in most of the movies, he just kind of sits for as long as he possibly can and just kind of like mumbles his lines and talks about how he wasn't born on the fucking turnip truck. And he's not a great actor. If anything, he's more limited now than he's ever been. But he was still pumping them out up until about 2019. Right before the whole pandemic situation, and then since that point, he hasn't seemed to been able to get things going again. And probably him being an alleged and you know alleged is a funny word. You know, he's a bad man. Seagal's a bad man. Um, but anyway, let's get to it. Huh? Let's go through. Enough of the yapping. All right. Okay. So we're gonna just start right at the beginning with above the law. And as indicated before, Steven Seagal is above the law is a perfectly grammatical phrase. Also, next up, in 1990, we have Steven Seagal is hard to kill. Yes, he is. And Steven Seagal is marked for death. So those both work. Then we got Steven Seagal is out for justice. That's what he's doing. He's going out to get some justice. Then we have Under Siege, which is, quite possibly my favorite Steven Seagal movie, even though it's more of a Tommy Lee Jones movie that Steven Seagal, shows up in now and then and says, I'm just a cook, and then he kicks somebody in the stomach. On Deadly Ground, Steven Seagal's directorial debut. Steven Seagal is on deadly ground. Perfectly grammatical phrase. And now here's the first one where we start to run into trouble. Steven Seagal is under siege. Yes. But is Steven Seagal under siege to dark territory? I don't think so. Then we have Steven Seagal is executive decision, which doesn't work, but I don't know if I'm going to put that one towards the counter because he does have a supporting role in that film. I don't know. We'll put it in the question mark tier. Yeah, executive decision. We'll come back to that later, maybe. Steven Seagal is the Glimmer Man. Sure, that's who he is. Steven Seagal is Fire Down Below. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, there are going to be some later where I'm going to argue that he's the personification of certain things and that makes things grammatical. But Steven Seagal is Fire Down Below. I don't think that works on either level. Steven Seagal is the Fire Down Below. That would work. But I think we got to put that one in no as well. Let me know if you disagree. Then we have My Giant, which he just had a cameo in, even though Steven Seagal is My Giant would totally work. Steven Seagal is The Patriot. That obviously works. Then he produced a couple of movies that are not going to count. Not Even the Trees, The Prince of Central Park, and The Path Beyond Thought, which I think is a documentary maybe about him or maybe about that weird martial art he does, Aikido, which is just basically him lightly touching people and like throwing them across the room. That's what it looks like anyway when you watch videos of it. It looks like the people who he's like fighting with are working really hard to make the throws look realistic. Then you got Exit Wounds. Steven Seagal is Exit Wounds. That one's also a bit of a gray area because Steven Seagal is an exit wound. Yes, Steven Seagal is the exit wounds, maybe. That Steven Seagal is exit wounds, I could kind of see because, he's like the personification of exit wounds. I think that's one of the ones where it kind of works. But I'm going to say it doesn't work because why is Steven Seagal multiple exit wounds? There is one Steven Seagal and there is more than one exit wound. So for that reason, I'm putting it in no. That might be controversial. Steven Seagal is Ticker. This one I have to look at because if Ticker is somebody's name, then maybe we have a shot at this. Okay, it is not. Ticker is not anybody's name. It's just called Ticker because there's a bomb in it. So I'm putting Ticker. Though, I don't know if this one should count either because he's not the star of this one. It's like Tom Sizemore and Dennis Hopper both have bigger roles than him, though he does have a bigger role apparently than Ice-T or Nas. We'll put the supporting ones. No, you know what? That's no fun. That's no fun. Steven Seagal. We're counting them. We're counting the ones where he had little. No, we're not. No, we're not. God, I can't make up my mind. All right, we're gonna put it down here. Maybe we're gonna come back to it later. Steven Seagal is half past dead. Yes, no problem. Steven Seagal is the foreigner. Absolutely. Steven Seagal is out for a kill. That's a great one. Steven Seagal is Belly of the Beast. No, it would work if it was Steven Seagal is the Belly of the Beast. Steven Seagal is out of reach. Yes. Steven Seagal is Clementine. This is another one that I'm going to put down here because he just has like a tiny little role in Clementine. It's, like a Korean movie, I believe, where he just has kind of a cameo part. He's like the boss battle at the end. But I have thought long and hard about this one, whether this would count. And I'm undecided as to whether to include these or not. We'll see. But see, Steven Seagal is Clementine. That does kind of work because Clementine is a name, I believe. It's either the name of this guy's daughter or it's like his nickname for his daughter, I think. But then it kind of doesn't work because Steven Seagal isn't Clementine. And we're going to see that later, too. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, that's also an issue with Machete. Because Steven Seagal as Machete could work if Steven Seagal was playing Machete, but he's not playing Machete. He's playing Rogelio Torres. So he's not Machete, you know? So it's issues like these that keep me up at night. Steven Seagal is into the sun. Yes, Steven Seagal, he loves the sun. He loves spending time with it. He thinks it's hot. Steven Seagal is submerged. Yes, that works. Steven Seagal is Today You Die. No. Steven Seagal is Black Dawn. Also no. Steven Seagal is the Black Dawn. Steven Seagal is a Black Dawn. You know, unless, you know, Black Dawn was his name, but it's not. Because his name is The Foreigner. Okay, Mercenary for Justice. Steven Seagal is Mercenary for Justice. Now, you might think that doesn't work. You might be like, Steven Seagal is the Mercenary for Justice. But we gotta remember that mercenary is not necessarily a noun. It can also be an adjective, which means, you know, money-oriented, greedy. So, if we look at it through that context, Steven Seagal is greedy for justice. Yes, that works, but that is clearly not the way they're intending mercenary. You know, they're clearly meaning it as, you know, somebody like who's a badass who takes the law into his own hands, that kind of mercenary. So it works and it doesn't work. So I am going to put that in no, as much as I want to put it in yes, just because I can't ignore the definition of mercenary that they're intending. Steven Seagal is Shadow Man. Once again, kind of a gray area, because if, like, Shadow Man was the name of a superhero, then it would totally work. So let's see. Widowed former CIA agent Jack Foster, a.k.a. the Shadow Man. So he calls himself Shadow Man. So Steven Seagal is Shadow Man. I'm going to say that counts. Technically, he calls himself the Shadow Man, but I think it's close enough. You know, you can imagine a scene where he's, you know, he's coming around the corner and the bad guy's, like, cowering in fear, and he looks up and he goes, Shadow Man. You know, so I think that's fine. Steven Seagal is Attack Force. I'm going to say no on that one. That doesn't fly. Steven Seagal is Urban Justice. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say they are, you know, Steven Seagal is the personification of urban justice. This is one of those. Steven Seagal is Flight of Fury. No, that's not going to do it. Steven Seagal is Pistol Whipped. Yeah, that's what he is. That's what happened to him. Steven Seagal is The Onion Movie. We don't have to count that one. Steven Seagal is Kill Switch. I'm going to say no. Steven Seagal is the Kill Switch. Steven Seagal is Against the Dark. Yeah, he hates the dark because he's into the sun. Steven Seagal is Driven to Kill. 100%. One of the best ones. Steven Seagal is The Keeper. Yep. There you go. He is the titular keeper in that film, so we're not running into that Clementine Machete issue there. Steven Seagal is A Dangerous Man, maybe the best one. Huge fan of that one. Steven Seagal is Sheep Impact, we don't have to worry about, because that was, I believe, a beer commercial. Steven Seagal is Born to Raise Hell, absolutely, that's a great one. Steven Seagal is Maximum Conviction. I'm going to say no on that one, because while he could be the concept of maximum conviction, I just don't think it jibes grammatically either way, even if that were the case. Steven Seagal is Force of Execution. Same deal. Steven Seagal is a good man. Absolutely, even though it's not true. Steven Seagal is Gunshot Straight. I have no fucking idea what Gunshot Straight means. That is why there's a maybe tier, because I knew something like this would come up. That Gunshot Straight is just like, it's word salad. Like, what does the first word have to do with the second word? Can somebody please for the love of God, put in the comments what they mean by gunshot straight. Like that's not a term. That's not something somebody, oh, that guy really got gunshot straight. That's not a thing people say. Help me. I'm confused. Steven Seagal is absolution. Sure, he's the concept of absolution. Steven Seagal is the code of honor. Now, Steven Seagal is the code of honor. That would be fine. Steven Seagal is sniper, special ops. I'm gonna say yes. Steven Seagal. No, no, because he's the sniper. His name isn't Sniper. That's his position. Though I can imagine them on the radio being like Sniper, you know. So I don't know. That one's kind of a gray area. What did I put? Did I put that under no, or did I put Code of Honor under no? Oh my God, I lost my place. Okay, I think we're there. I think we're there. Okay. Um, I am gonna say Steven Seagal is sniper special ops. I'm gonna put that in no. I'm gonna put that in no. Upon reflection, it just doesn't sit right with me. I can't commit to that. All right, Steven Seagal is the Asian connection. Yeah, absolutely works grammatically. I don't know if he's literally the Asian connection in the movie, but I think we can let it slide. Steven Seagal is end of a gun. No, no, no. Steven Seagal is Contract to Kill. Also, no. Steven Seagal is the perfect weapon. Fucking absolutely. Steven Seagal is cartels. He's a whole bunch of cartels. No. Steven Seagal is China salesman. I mean, that one doesn't work. But in its defense, the character in the movie, they just call him China salesman. They're like, this is the China salesman. And it's very strange. And it's not the way people talk. It confused me very much. Steven Seagal is attrition. Yes, he is the concept of attrition personified. Steven Seagal is general commander. It would work if it was a general named commander, but it's not, so it doesn't. And finally, Steven Seagal is beyond the law. Yes, he is. Now, we're not going to hit on the television shows, really. I mean, we will, but they won't count toward the total. But we can go through them real fast, as there are two of them. Steven Seagal is Steven Seagal Lawman. I'd say that counts. And Steven Seagal is True Justice. I would also say that would count, as he is the personification of true justice. So, as you can see, we've got a ratio of 28 to 19 to 1. Because, yeah, we're not counting gunshot straight for this shit. All right. I can't deal with it. I don't want it in my life. All right, so now I'm going to try to calculate percentage calculator. I'm going to try to figure out what percentage of his movies work with this naming convention and which don't. So, let's see, 28, 38, 48, 47. So 28 is what percent of 47? I'm good at math. Don't question my math. Okay, so we have a percentage rate of 59.57. So I think, I would round that up. I would say roughly 60%. Which, to be honest, is a little bit low than I think conventional wisdom would have dictated, because they had such a good thing with the Steven Seagal is, and then he's this thing. I mean, if it were up to me, all of his movies would have that convention. But, he's not successful anymore, and this is probably why. Steven Seagal is under siege to dark territory, really, and that's the moment where his career started to slide downhill too. I mean, he had like a little chance to come back there with what, like Exit Wounds and Better Off Dead, and it didn't work. It was like by then the damage had been done. So anyway, That's something I do sometimes.